What's up, Trance family? I am here with Deon Butler, aka Kaeno. He's here in Minneapolis. We've got Mark Sherry coming in town. We're doing this cool interview. I've always wanted to do these because I've seen him online and just kind of talking and just chatting about the scene, about each other, about music. And so we were talking about where trance is going. And like, tell us your thoughts on this, Deon. Like, where you think you see it going and where it is right now. Let's start with where it is right now.
Well, I see trance right now as it's the festival sound. It left the clubs, and I really see it going. It left underground as well, a little bit mainstream, but I see it going more of the festival circuit sound, big stages, and that niche market of different parts of the world. I do see the harder edge sound of trance, the hard, driving stuff like Clean Cluster and, T78.
Yeah, it's T78.
T78 and all those guys.
Like, which we would, I think, in some circles would consider that hard trance, right?
Yeah, the hard trance. I see like the hard trance sound is really going back to the underground where we started at, so.
Yeah, I know what's interesting is, that whole melodic sound. I think I've even talked to people over the last few years, and they would even agree that melodic's kind of, or the progressive's dead, uplifting's kind of dead. It's either melodic or it's like a heavier sound.
But okay, so funny story. We were talking about melodic techno.
Yeah, melodic.
And I was just like, oh, that's progressive tech.
Yep. Yep. It's you're either melodic house or you're melodic techno. It's like, is it kind of have that lighter tone, or is it got that techno kick, but it's still kind of got those lighter melodies?
Yeah, but I mean, back in the days, we used to go to Limelight. I mean, I had Shadow Lounge in Miami, and we had George Acosta and Tala and Tasha would come down, and we were playing trance to the main room. It was like the gospel,
right?
People would come for the melodies, the enchanted vocals, and the driving synths, but that sound doesn't resonate well in the clubs right now.
No.
It's fast. It's fast-paced, quick transitions, and then the festival market, and with all the festivals taking place, that doesn't leave room for nightclubs to run that sound.
And would you even agree that some of that is to the effect of the attention span in kind of our fast-paced, social media-driven world, that's kind of influenced the music scene too? People want to have quicker transitions. They want to have harder music, like it's kind of on demand or faster type of melodies and music.
Definitely. It was a perfect example. Funny. There's a record out by Key 450. I Want More. Is that I Want More? Yeah, I think it's.
Is it kind of have more like that techno-y sound?
Yeah.
But if you're Kearney and Jock, and they have that harder sound anyways. Right?
Yeah, but the song says it clearly. You want more. This is the hook to it. It's like, I want more. You want more music. You want more beats. Da 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 da. 140 something. Yeah, that's what it is. They just want more. With all the record labels, which I'm pro everybody having their own market, their own record label, their own brand, their own sound. But the thing is that it now segments everybody and pigeonholes you into, well, what crew are you going to be on, and what sound are you going to play, etc. So to each his own. Everybody should have their own brand. And plus, as an artist, you shouldn't be able to you shouldn't sacrifice your sound or conform to one sound because of what a record label says. But
a lot of people do that.
Yeah, but with so many different record labels out, it's hard to then network or be together as a group.
100%.
Yep,
and that's where coming underneath of one umbrella with one sound helps you from a marketability perspective. Otherwise, you're trying to be a pioneer in your own space. And I've had this conversation with other artists. In this day and age, the quality of music is definitely a little questionable because it's become easier for just about anyone to create a label. And so where did that check and balance go? Where some of those larger labels like your Universals or your Sonys or whatever, where you had those people that had the ear, they were the experts in their field, and now everyone is an expert. I'm a self-professed expert because this is the sound I'm embracing.
Exactly, but then, so that's the lack of the A&Rs.
Yes.
You don't have A&Rs anymore really like discovering sound. Like I always look at, like that was it full-time A&R for Aria Digital. I was looking at new artists that were coming out to the scene, but were making music that was, like legacy. And I always base it around tracks like, Mike Push,
Legends and
like
the
Universal Nation and, the Rank One sound and things like those anthems, and
back when they were putting them on records, which by the way, you see where we are, right? You see where we drove from.
Yeah.
Ruben walked down here when he was here.
Oh, okay.
It seems like he was driving, walking his 10 miles.
Wow.
Just to check out all the record stores. So.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I digress. But yeah, the OGs that, released on vinyl, because if you wanted to release on vinyl, you had to have a good sound and you had to connect with a large label that can actually be able to bring that to the masses.
Well, it's like perfect example. I use Darren Porter, for example, and Paul Denton. Like David Forbes and I, we discovered those guys like before they hit where they're at now. I mean, Paul was writing some heavy stuff back then, and
just killing it.
And Darren Porter is like a musical genius.
Oh yeah,
like his melodies and everything. When we first discovered him, Aria Digital, even Alan Morrow right now, and Alan Morrow is finally getting his day in court. I say like on the scene, like
his due respect.
His respects, yeah. I mean, when Rich called him out, it's like this guy's making some serious music. Like that's an OG, pure trance.
Yep.
Like he's making quality music. So that's what it was about. That's what a true A&R I feel does, and discovers talent that's taking a sound and morphing it to theirs and building on it.
Oh yeah, let's get that. Get the fire trucks come in.
See what you started?
Yeah,
Trance seems hot.
Trance on fire. Yeah, I talked to Darren last year. His first time to perform after COVID, and he went through a lot, but he's always had that love of the cinematic sound, and he brings that to a lot of his music, and that's something if you go and listen to a lot of his music from the last decade, it's just amazing.
But that's what,
really
remember that's what trance was back then. It was like that, those orchestral cinematic scores followed by like driving beats and
that's a good point. That's a good point. So take us back to Miami, and I hate saying comparisons, but what was, if you were to compare like going back in time from where we are now to back in Miami, like what was that feel? What was that scene?
Miami was just thriving. I mean, everybody wanted to come to Miami.
It
was warm.
where Ultra started, right?
Yeah, Ultra started on the beach, 21st and Collins.
Yeah.
I remember the first Ultra I went to, we had the Gatecrasher stage.
Oh, man.
Tosher was playing.
Yep.
Max Graham. Who else? Tall Paul. Who else was there? George Acosta.
Yeah.
David Padilla.
Was that before? Was Paul Oakenfold there at that
Paul
point?
Oakenfold was there. Paul Oakenfold didn't play the Gatecrasher stage. He played the main stage, but we had a Cream stage too. Like this was like all the European clubs.
Yeah.
And they came because of we had the record label pool called Flamingo Records.
Okay.
And Flamingo Records was in touch with all the European clubs. And back then that's how you got your music.
Exactly.
It was file sharing, but through the mail. Like you were sharing snail mail. You were sending records to people through the mail, and that's how the clubs got their music.
Ain't that picture for kids these days?
Yeah, right. So you will wait like 2 weeks to get a new record that was already hot in Europe, but then it came to the States and you got it, and then it was only heard in the club.
Yeah. And
you had to be a DJ to get these records. So
and that makes sense why we would always say that Europe was ahead of the sound and the US would pick it up, because that's the only way they were able to get it.
Yeah. So it would go. We had the transit commute. You would go from Europe to New York. New York was still like house music.
Yeah.
You had Danny Tenaglia, Peter Roffer, and all those guys, but they weren't playing like trance.
Yeah.
And then that music really stemmed. I mean, George Acosta was a pioneer for Miami, and Sasha and Digby will be playing up in Orlando. Paul Van Dyke was playing up in Orlando and Gainesville, a club called Simon's. And a lot of the bed,
Gainesville?
Yeah,
Was that a
Gainesville.
college town?
it was a college town.
Yeah.
But I think it's Chris Fortier, I believe, from Bedrock.
Oh, yeah.
The progressive sound
Yeah.
was really big
Yeah.
up there.
The,
So
the digweed.
yeah,
Digweed.
digweed. Yeah. So
Want to hear a secret?
what's that?
All right. My Fallen Angel project,
Uh-huh.
getting a release of Heaven Sent.
Nice. Congrats, bro.
Yeah. So we
Solid.
we finally was a 6-month journey,
Uh-huh.
and finally John came back to us. It's like, all right, producer credits. I'm like, all right, we're getting close.
Nice.
He's asking for producer credits.
That's awesome, man.
So
That's big
I
news.
haven't done
Congrats
that,
for
so
you.
yeah, I'm excited.
But I mean, that's what it was. So progressive was, the sound was there. We just didn't know where it was.
Yep.
So Gainesville had progressive, Digweed, Oakenfold, all these guys were playing up there. And then I think through I believe through like the promotion for Flamingo Records and all that stuff, that music started coming down to like the Miami nightclubs, like Club
Making its way down
Liquid,
there.
yeah, Shadow Lounge. We had Pasha. We had a Pasha in Miami.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we had
That-
Mars Bar, and then we had the Edge in Fort Lauderdale, which the Edge was the trance and underground mecca.
All right. Pause for 60 seconds, maybe a little more than 60 seconds. I want to run in here real quick, grab these files, and they still can't get it right. So
That's what the crop marks are for.
I know
Hell, that's cool like a border though.
it does.
You know what I'm
actually
gonna
does
do?
look kind of cool. Like a
I'm
border.
gonna make next time. I'm gonna make the bleed the color of the flyer.
I like that. I think that. So finally, this man who's been making these for the last year finally gets to get some.
Get the sign one.
You get to not only sign 2,
Oh.
you actually get to sign 50.
all right.
Not only get to sign them, but I've got some others from the other shows that I already signed for
Awesome.
the car. So the only one that I thought was really weird is usually with Ruben at Skyway, they'll have a bunch of posters on the wall. They only had one, so selfishly, I did keep that one.
All right.
But I could always get some more print.
So,
But yeah, no, appreciate all your amazing talent.
no, but
these
so speaking of flyers,
yeah,
that's how I got my foot in the door. Actually,
and at shows, going
Nope.
to shows, and
well, no, that's how I got my foot in the door in the music industry. I was already DJing in college. I had a college radio show. It's still my show, The Vanishing Point.
yeah, 600 plus episodes. How many?
Actually, I'm actually in the thousands,
Yeah.
but we took a hiatus.
Okay.
And I started the show with DI.FM.
Oh, hold on. I got a phone call from Mark. He's 15 minutes early. So flyers, and so you were in the thousands for your show, but you took a hiatus.
Yeah, so the radio show, The Vanishing Point, I mean, it's been around since 1999, 2000. Yeah, 99. I started. After I graduated from high school, I went to FIU, and then I started the radio show that summer. It was actually starting as a drum and bass show.
Oh wow.
Breaks and drum and bass.
Breaks. Oh, it was so
Yeah.
it was hot back in we went to a lot of breaks and
Yeah.
drum and bass shows in the early 2000s back when we lived in Memphis. So
Yeah.
totally. It was either like you got a little bit of tastes of trance because it was still trying to get its bearings here in the
Yeah.
States, but drum and bass and breaks was hot.
So breaks was a thing for South Florida. So breaks, drum and bass, and then I started really getting into house music, and then there was a DJ named George Alvarado, and George Alvarado was like the legend of. He owned a record store called Night Beat. He was releasing a Strictly Rhythm, but he was playing like that Euro fusion house that started to venture into trance a little bit, and he started a show called Late Night Laboratory
Okay.
on Power 96 with this guy named Liquid Todd.
Ah, Liquid Tide.
Yeah. Liquid Todd.
He
And-
is.
And that
Okay.
show, he started to introduce trance.
Todd did?
No, yeah, Liquid Todd and George Alvarado.
Hey, those are the guys.
They
man.
started introducing trance, and the track they started off with, and it started getting people into the sound, was Casey's Escape.
Oh, yeah.
And then he started playing Braveheart on Positiva,
Yep.
and then he started introducing Demond, and then
Yep.
George Acosta was already starting to play the sound. George was playing breaks, and he was on Strictly Rhythm, and then George Acosta really started picking it up more with David Padilla and Edgar V,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's how they got into Shadow Lounge,
Yep.
the Mix After Hours. Oscar G was still doing house music, tribal. But I started shopping at Groove Man, which was George Acosta's record store. And then I said, hey, I would bring them recordings of the Late Night Laboratory. I said, I want this track. And it was always the harder edge stuff that I wanted. And it was like
Amazing.
Dumond and Overdose Records. And that's when I started discovering Scott Project and all these guys. So funny, after that, I started interning at a graphic design firm called PK Graphics on South Beach. And this is what every shop
was buying their flyers from.
Was getting their flyers done.
Yeah.
But it was all the nightclubs that went.
Yeah.
So I met the marketing directors of all these nightclubs.
Yep.
And also the music management.
Because nobody had computers. Nobody knew how to use. There was no real photo design software back then. You had to go to someone that had the technology and had the wherewithal to actually know how to do it.
So I remember her name was Chris. I can't remember her last name right now, but Chris was the PR and marketing manager with Dave Sokoloff and Dave Ralph.
Okay.
Dave Ralph ran I forget which record, Ultra Music. Back at the time.
That's why it sounds.
Yeah, and they were they were Shadow Lounge.
Wow.
So they would come in with these just white pieces of paper with writing on it, and says, "Oh, we're bringing Talin Tosher, and we're bringing Dumond and Scott Project and Tej Verwest, Salty Dog."
Yeah. That's right. I think we were talking about
this. And I'm designing all these flyers for them. Yeah. And I remember, like, I would be designing these flyers.
Before any of them had logos, it's just text, right?
Yeah, it was just text. And I'm listening to the music, and Chris goes, "Come by the club." So I formed a relationship with them, and I became their designer for all those flyers. And then
stories.
Yeah, so that connection really got me into the music, because George Acosta would recognize me and say, "Oh, that's my flyer guy. And he's into the music too." So, and he has a radio show, so I would have them come do my radio show at FIU, and then I would go see them at the clubs.
That's cool.
That was my goal, to like warm up for them.
Yeah.
And I got my chance on the global underground radio front, Groove Radio. It was like an underground radio station.
Oh man, that's legendary.
And then I got my foot in the door. So I started warming up for them, and we started playing raves together. And then my best friend, like brother, David Alexander, really put me on to the scene. Like, he taught me the ins and outs, because he was already vested playing all the big nightclubs, and he introduced me to properly learning how to beat match on vinyl, everything. So that was my mentor, and he still is my mentor to this day.
That's awesome.
So he was playing Living Room, Liquid, Groove Jet, all these big clubs down in Miami, and he was running the circuit too. He was part of Flamingo Records, so he was getting Trance through promo pools and sounds that no one else had. Even George Acosta didn't have some of the stuff that he had.
You're probably like, "What's that?"
Yeah, exactly. So talking about train spotting, he was he knew the records.
What's that System F guy?
Yep. So that's how it all started. That's how my career started in the music scene.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And fast forward to today, and I know you work with a lot of the artists that you've gotten to know over the years, and you've done a lot of their artwork. And I know this gentleman that we're going to pick up at the airport right now.
So
Mark Sherry.
I met Mark. If that's gonna be a funny story, but when Mark gets in here, we'll go deeper into that. But I met Mark through Trance Addict.
Oh yeah, the website. Yeah, man, that was.
He played a track. I think it was called something Time and Space, or something, by DJ Quicksilver. That is crazy intro, and he used to post his sets on Trance Addict. And I messaged him about the track and where could I get it from. He says, "Oh, it's only on vinyl." So I actually went to the store and I actually found the vinyl. So I said, we started talking, and I asked him, could he do a guest mix for my radio show? And then he put me on his email list of all the music that he was playing, because Mark was on a radio show too. He was a radio DJ. In Scotland. He had a radio show and everything, and he used to send out his track list of all the tracks that he's played and everything else. I can't remember the name of his radio show though, but he was already had the guys outbursting. Yeah, but I don't think his show was called Outburst yet. And then he would send his playlist over with all his tracks and stuff like that. And I would send him my stuff. And he goes, hey, like, who's doing all, like, how do you get this cool artwork and stuff? And I said, oh, I'm designing it. He's like, so I helped him design.
Outburst.
No, I helped him design like a promo flyer for him.
Okay.
Yeah. And at that time, I didn't even know he was public domain.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea he was public domain until we started getting deeper and I started doing more artwork for him. And I realized it when I read the credits.
You're like,
that's public domain, based in the place, London. And yeah.
Yep.
And the rest is history. I've been designing for Mark to this day since then.
What year was that? 2000?
That was, that was
Nine.
No, that was about, I should have designed for Mark, I think in 2000, the new Mark before that. I think like 2004.
Wow.
Yeah, because Trance Addict was still around back then.
Yeah, it was.
So it was about 2000, it's about 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember being around the forums and getting a lot of the music through either satellite or DIFM, and then having with DIFM in the early 2000s and like having the paid subscription for it every year, and then having Streamripper and just having it run all the time, so that way when some of those radio shows would come on, and be like, all right, I was asleep for it, I was working, but I'd always have that collection of all those sets that I can go back and listen to.
So that's another funny story behind it, because I didn't even know who Armin. I knew who Armin was because Marcus Schultz used to bring him to Miami. Marcus Schultz had a record store in Miami, but I didn't know he had a radio show, A State of Trance, and I had my radio show the exact same time. So my show is technically in the thousands.
Yeah.
But the number when I got on my show went to Sirius Satellite Radio, and then it went to DI.FM. So the numbering just got lost between different show entities. I couldn't start DI at show 600 and then Sirius Satellite Radio, so I had to start renumbering certain things. So that's why it's called TVP Reloaded, because it's featuring all my top selections for the month of what I would usually do when the Vanishing Point was weekly. And that was when it was on Sirius Satellite Radio. It was also on Party107.com. So I was doing the show every week.
Was that when it was on 82 on World Space?
Yeah, exactly. So it was every week, and I was able to chart all those tracks to the record labels. And then that's why TVP Reloaded was formed on DI.FM, because they wanted something exclusive. So, but Armin and I show started roughly around the same time, and I remember I was a huge fan of ID&T Records, and then ID&T Radio and Slam.fm. And Armin came out with the album 76, and that's when he started posting A State of Trance episodes, and he featured Plastic Boy and Push and Silver, what was it, Silver Screen, and all those tracks. And we were getting those tracks in, so I'm like, okay, we're getting the same music now, because I'm publishing the radio, we're in sync, And that's when I really discovered like Armin's A State of Trance and what he was doing. And his show was, it wasn't to the level it was now.
It was where he was speaking Dutch and English. He was kind of fluently going back and forth, because I remember listening to some of the earlier episodes, and my first one was actually because of satellite radio. It was because of World Space and it being broadcast on there, and I heard it in my buddy's car, and I was like, oh, I love this, because that was really when I was starting to get really deep into trance back in the early 2000s. It was episode like 62. I think was kind of the first one, but it was so funny. Like wait a second, I know he's speaking English, but then he was Dutch, and so I was telling Ruben that, and he kind of laughed. He's like, yeah.
so that was like the shift of like. So knowing from where I came from with trance and techno, progressive, breaks, all the music, like seeing how it fostered into what it's become now, and looking at the festival market and the nightclubs that I've seen come and go, I feel it's like a cycle, I feel the music is gonna go back underground. Trance has gone back underground, but it's taken a new form.
Right.
It's the more harder driven, harder edge sound. Like, the 140, 140, we were like 4 to the 4, 140.
Yep.
Now it's like 150.
Right. And I think some of that that has to do, and I wish I could find this article, but someone had shared this with me, and I thought it was really profound. It has to do with global political climates. You've got election years, like everything that causes uneasiness and uncertainty kind of drives like where the direction of sound is, and like people embracing the more feelsy stuff, or they're wanting the harder stuff, because of how things are within the world.
Yeah.
And then
So COVID is a perfect example. The world stopped.
Yep.
Like, you couldn't go out. It was like what Paul Van Dyke said, which I love. He said in one article that he didn't want to be known as a trance DJ. He said, I'm a musician. And I remember this as Politics of Dancing came out.
Yeah.
But it was like back then, like COVID, the world stopped. We couldn't go clubbing. We couldn't hear the music we love. We couldn't go to festivals. So people started creating, like there were raves. They were really underground. Like, nobody knew about them.
There were certain artists that they started to embrace Twitch.
Yep.
And that's kind of when I started doing Twitch. And then
We all did Twitch.
Yeah. and then there were artists that said that I refused to play online because I'm not in front of a room full of people. And then there are other artists that said, I'm going to do this because I'm still sharing the love of music. And that's where you've got artists like Tala. He's just revolutionized after 30 years or 40 years of doing music. But he's still going strong. And then you've got some new kids like Miyuki who's blowing up because of COVID and because of.
I'm glad. I shouldn't say I'm not glad that COVID took place, but I'm glad the clubs slowed down.
Yeah.
And the music paused for a second, because it allowed a lot of new breed artists to surface.
Right. That's a great point.
And a lot of those artists who embraced technology took it to the next level.
Yep.
And introduced their sound and formed their following, their community.
Yeah.
And that's what it is now.
Yep.
So props to those artists that weren't given the opportunity to get on the main stage. Like, guess what? I made my own main stage.
The world was a bigger main stage.
Yeah. So they made their main stage, and now, like Clay Cluster, forgive me, I'm butchering his name, but like a lot of these, hard style artists that are transitioning now can do their own festivals.
Yep.
And do their own venues and find their own venues, bring sound in.
Because they built those communities.
Yeah.
And those communities they're loyal and they want to hear more, and then then that kind of fosters that next generation of artists because they've all come to this community, and then now these artists are able to see the people that are really starting to shine, and that's essentially the music industry.
But that's been the sense of this type of music generally. Like, I feel like I've never really conformed to a sound or conformed to a promoter. I've always
been yourself.
I've always been independent. I've always stuck by my integrity. I've always played the music I want to play. And I think I've been better off doing that mentally. I don't have the stress of somebody telling me I need to do X, Y, and Z to be, successful. I have my art degrees, I have my businesses and everything else.
And that I have your love of music.
Yeah, that I thrive in, and I have my love of music too, and I'm still able to get up, go play shows, interact with the community, because that's where we came from.
Exactly.
We came from the message boards, the underground forums. That was our community. And now I'm really fostering the new and up and coming artists, helping them with branding and helping educate or learn the music industry. But they're also teaching me the technology side and where you need to be at.
Right.
Who
would you say that is you're if you were to put a spotlight on an artist or two here in 2024, who would those next up and comers be that you've seen it really embrace it or have that passion?
Submersive.
Yeah. Clayton. Yeah.
Right. Clayton just did a guest mix for me. Oh, sick.
Probably a lot of his own tracks too.
Yeah.
Known him.
Submersive. I want to say Jacob Rondelin or Rockland from Europe. He's doing some serious stuff. Oblivion is doing some really good stuff. Robbie over in Glasgow. He's doing some awesome stuff as well. You guys,
Yeah, well,
I mean, you
thanks
got
to
a community there. Lucho down in Miami.
Lucio,
Yeah.
I just had he was here last week with Cosmic Game. I
Yeah.
had dinner with him, and
Lucho's doing some big things.
Yeah.
Like when I left Miami, Lucho was a promoter.
Yeah.
And Lucho took the scene and just like did a 360 with it and
Yeah.
shifted it.
he's done amazing.
I'm really proud of him because where he came from, like, and how he's turned the music into his own down there, like,
Yep.
props to him.
Yep.
Mike St. Jules is doing some really cool stuff.
New York, yeah.
Brian Flynn, I feel is really fostering his progressive sound.
Yeah, his Flynn.
Yeah.
PHLYNN. Yeah.
Yeah, I just back to back with him.
Out in Cali.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else? Tasso.
Oh, Dean.
Dean, yeah.
Dean, yeah.
Dean's doing some really good stuff right now. Adam Morrow, like I said earlier, Adam Morrow is just a whiz right now. He's cranking it out. I mean, there's so many different people. Like, I mean, you see my playlist. Like, like look, Bix. I'm working on Bix's new album.
Yeah.
Oh, like, can't forget this guy. Why am I drawing a blank? Derek Ryan.
Derek
right
Ryan,
now.
yeah.
Just
Just
like this song. We're just talking about.
I did a release review for Kieran's remix of this track. It wasn't one on the album, but yeah, dude, he's got a massive catalog.
Derek Ryan's album,
It's
like
good. I listened
no,
to it.
that
Lots of
album,
different sounds and
that is like what I grew up on playing. Like that like his album was like a DJ set for me. He started with breaks. He went to progressive. He started picking up the BPMs. He went full on Balearic trance. He went full on vocals. The guy does his own vocals.
yeah, I heard that.
He
didn't disclose what tracks that he did the vocals on.
I'm not telling you, but I'm gonna be remixing one of them.
It's awesome.
But yeah, his record label, he's
good stuff with the scent.
Yeah, he's doing stuff that I feel needs to be more done more of in the music industry. He's looking for new up and coming artists, and he's really fostering them.
And he's got an interesting niche there in Japan.
Yeah, he's helping them build their sound.
Yeah,
he's helping them with their
unique.
marketing, their branding.
Yeah.
He's just doing everything of what like a record label should do.
Yeah.
And he's doing it on a scale that will allow them to expand, and then him also to expand at a point. Him and Sosh, his partner, they're just amazing. Like they're A&Ring some really good stuff coming out.
Awesome.